If you've been in the Fire Emblem community for any period of time, you have probably heard of the sentiment that most Fire Emblem games either have a good story and bad gameplay, or good gameplay and a bad story. You can find examples of this across the entire series, but you don't actually have to do that because the two most recent entries already do it for you. Three Houses was hailed for its writing, and even though some people disagree about the story being good, actions speak louder than words. There are many stories, including Engage, that absolutely no one talks about months after release, but if you so much as mention Edelgard, you will spawn your own personal discussion for him 5 years after Three Houses came out. But even back in ye olden days, we had Genealogy vs Thracia, Fire Emblem Fates vs Fire Emblem Echoes, Fire Emblem 7 vs Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, apparently. It's gone to the point where I feel like even the devs are aware of this, because why did they literally give you the choice between the one with better gameplay and the one with a marginally better story? As a matter of fact, I know they're aware of this. I don't know how or why, but Intelligent Systems is probably one of the more aware studios when it comes to what its fandom is thinking and saying. It's a strange thing that I rarely ever see in a studio. The fact that they are aware of the veteran and casual split, despite how small of a percentage those veterans actually are, is crazy to me. We can obviously see this in the marketing for Echoes and the fact that they even made Echoes in the first place, but even outside of that, they really care about the criticism without any obvious reason to. But more on Awakening later. So what even is good Fire Emblem gameplay? The answer is simple. None of it. Fire Emblem is a tactical grid-based strategy RPG, meaning that you raise an army and form up plans but with a lot of class customization, hit rate nonsense. Think less Civilization and more XCOM. Okay, first of all, quick run through. Fire Emblem was about to die from mid because they couldn't write off the high that was the first international release because people for some reason didn't fuck with Paso Radiance, and then every installment afterwards was so bad that they were banished to the Japanese minds again. Even better, it was on the Nintendo DS where even though they had the Ghost in the Shell manga doing the art, the game still came out looking like fucking dog shit. Jesus Christ. So they were given a chance. Sell 250,000 copies or more, yada yada. They tried their best, they sold 2 million copies, saved the franchise, blah blah blah. Every single fucking Fire Emblem video mentioned the story and it's been getting on my nerves since I was in high school. We don't fucking care, the game is still ass. Well, at least me and my fellow veteran Fire Emblem fans think so. Game has the story of all time, and the gameplay is just flat maps where your juggernaut child soldiers never get hit and run on KO everything. Unless you're playing on Lunatic, which is flat maps and Robin and Chrom run on KOing everything. Or Lunatic Plus, where enemies are fucking roided up, and always attack first, and always ignore half your defense. Still no match for Robin with Nosferatu though. But take one step outside this little niche circle, and then boom, the game is one of the best selling SRPGs of all time, has a 92 on Metacritic, and in the eyes of the average player, Fire Emblem Awakening, a game considered to have some of the worst gameplay in the series, some of the worst writing in the series, a game where the devs couldn't properly put in feet, so they made everyone a wooden leg pirate, is one of the greatest games of all time. You take one step outside the fandom, I hate that word, and you start seeing this game pop up in an enormous top 10 games of all time list, alongside fucking Batman Arkham Asylum and Halo 2. What a small percentage of Fire Emblem fans think is antithetical to what most people think, and yet IS still listen to the criticisms. They try to balance the parrot system, they try to write a better story, they try to make interesting maps with varied objectives, at least in one of the games. They try to give characters more variance in the utility by not having all of them be literal gods with 1 billion% growth in every stat. Sure, they failed miserably in some of these aspects, but the fact that they even tried is absolutely mind-blowing to me, because from a corporate level, hell, even to an extent an artistic level, they literally had no reason to. So it's all the more interesting that the big content creators of Fire Emblem are all of this older fan mindset, the type of people who didn't enjoy Awakening and Fates and mostly prefer the older titles, the ones with a sharper and more niche approach to gameplay. Here's the big conspiracy. I think Intelligent System knows what good traditional Fire Emblem gameplay looks like. They just purposely withhold it when they have other goals, aka appeasing a different side of the fandom. They know what makes a good mostly balanced combat system and how to make maps with interesting objectives. The decisions they make in all the game entries are great and usually advance the series further. The fact that one of the most broken ways to beat any Fire Emblem, that being juggernauting by putting all your resources into one or a few units, was solved in a way more digestible and approachable than Fatigue via the chain attack system is genius. It's not super perfect, but it will make the majority of players have to think twice, if not thrice, about their strategy. So I don't want to see any videos about how they could fix certain systems or why they should bring this back or bring this mechanic back or whatever. They already know that. They just don't care. Fire Emblem Conquest was a culmination of over 2 decades of strategy gaming to make an insanely detailed and complex tactical game, and Three Houses was very much not. Three Houses needed to be a baby easy sandbox strategy game because it was meant to be more mass appealing than a game like Echoes or Conquest and whatnot. However, what annoys me is that Conquest level design would please both parties, and we know this because it's literally one of the most popular Fire Emblem games. Fire Emblem is one of the few games with good difficulty options because they do more than just tweak numbers, most of the time at least. Enemies are usually placed in smarter positions and have skills you have to plan around more, and also have better AI and just make you think smarter, some real shit. And the easier modes do a lot to reduce stress, like casual mode. Also, when you have character designs like this, it doesn't matter how hard your game is, shit is selling 1 million copies. As a matter of fact, we live in an era where games thrive off of being difficult. This is a post-Dark Souls Elden Ring world. People eat this shit up, even the RPG fans. No other tactics game will have a moment like Chapter 10 of Conquest. The map is a struggle from the get-go, but then, just when you start getting comfortable, Pegasus Knights appear. No problem, right? Just shoot them with the ballista and put Effie near them so she can kill them on enemy face and... Okay, you know what? Not the worst thing ever. You just have to dedicate resources to killing all the Pegasus Knights the first chance you can, which is fine. It all becomes manageable again because you have like 4 choke points and... Three Houses was never supposed to be this because it's more of a sandbox type game, which is fine, I guess. I had fun with it, but I never go back to it. What I do go back to is the story, which unfortunately is a thing the intelligence system doesn't know how to make consistently good. Sometimes it can be good, and sometimes it can be literally a pile of nothing. The Three Houses writing team was primarily composed of writers from Koei Tecmo, the studio that did the heavier work on Three Houses, while IS was making Paper Mario games that people think are bad, apparently. I haven't played them. So yeah, don't expect the next Fire Emblem games to have a story like Three Houses. IS isn't one to rest on their laurels, at least before Faye they weren't. Now they have a super cash cow that doesn't require 3 to 4 years of hard development time. I'm kind of worried with how Engage turned out. The writing was very much not the biggest priority here, even though they had tons of eyes waiting for a new big cast to fawn over. They wanted a fun story with a lot of useless twists and turns. It was an anniversary project after all. However, it was so unapologetically bland in everything it did that any conversation regarding the story died upon the release of the last DLC. Even before it came out, it felt like the game was just going to fulfill the textbook bad story, good gameplay. Just putting it out there, but the dread I felt when I saw the OG leaks is something I will never forget. Literally everyone doubted it, but I know intelligence systems. I know what they're capable of. I told myself otherwise, but deep down I accepted it. I knew it was true. I asked if Fire Emblem did the dishes, and now it responded and it was kind. Quick side rant, but the game banked a lot on bringing back the beloved Fire Emblem character and being the epic crossover thing, but it was kind of poo-poo about it. Faye was already that, so making a whole AAA video game about a concept that for all intents and purposes is already done better by the fucking gacha game was a boring idea to me. And the game taking so much from Faye was also pretty weird. A lot of people got offended by this remark, which is crazy because this is objectively true. Like, they straight up lifted multiple icons, skills, and gameplay mechanics from Faye. This game even added a light gacha system. But back to my main point. So I said that Fire Emblem has bad stories, but it doesn't actually have bad writing, so to speak. I mean that usually the script, aka the dialogue and prose, is usually pretty great actually. Off the top of my head, I can only name like 3 FE games that had this bad. Even The Awakening had its moments, and also Radiant Dawn had a simplified version of its script translated, which is why it's so much more plain, which is an interesting piece of trivia. So I never really look forward to Fire Emblem stories. That's why I always care more about supports, which I think is the same boat a lot of fanbases is in, even if they don't really know it. When it comes to cohesive plots that aren't riddled with holes and stretches of stupidity, there are like 2. And one of those the quote-unquote best Fire Emblem story is a retelling of an epic poem. The only story that can really stand up on their own and be entertaining in spite of some issues are Genealogy, Path of Radiance, Echoes, and maybe Three Houses. So like 1/4 of the franchise. Basically, Fire Emblem stories are fated to always be hit or miss, and the gameplay will be good depending on who they want to appeal to. So while IS can make good gameplay whenever they want, a good story is something you're probably better off not holding out for. If the next Fire Emblem game doesn't at least have good supports, it might be over.